So we're coming to the end of 2020 and what a year it has been. We started the year off with the bushfire crisis and we went straight into this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, during the pandemic hasn't been the greatest time for us to be evicted and to have to do all this packing and moving. But obviously, as we've been saying all along, for residential tenants, the experience of eviction and having to move is a whole lot more stressful, and only doubly so when that's happening during one of these crises. So for our last video of this year, we're going to hear stories from two of our tenant advocates about clients that they've been working with through both the bushfire crisis and this COVID crisis.
Hi, my name's Olivia and I'm a tenants advocate. This year's been really difficult for tenants with COVID-19. One of the tenants that I assisted this year, her name is Anjali. She was back in Sri Lanka visiting her sick mother when the borders closed. There was a complete ban in Sri Lanka from leaving the country, so she had to stay there. She was in full-time work, but because she didn't have any annual leave, she had to take leave without pay, and she couldn't afford to pay her rent. She paid all of the savings that she had, but then unfortunately she ran out of money. She tried to negotiate a rent reduction, as she was legally entitled to do. The landlord refused to negotiate and issued her with a notice of termination for rent arrears, even though there was a moratorium in place at that time. Anjali contacted our service. She was really concerned about losing her tenancy. She'd been at the property for over 9 years. We managed to convince the real estate agent and the landlord that Anjali fit into the category of COVID-19 impacted tenants, and that they weren't entitled to terminate her tenancy for rent arrears, which they agreed to after many phone calls. And then they issued a different type of notice to try and terminate Anjali's tenancy, but we successfully convinced them that that was also not a valid method of terminating her tenancy, because it was really still just for the same reasons as it was the first time. After months of negotiation and Anjali accruing thousands of dollars in debt, we finally managed to convince the landlord to undertake the formal rent negotiation process with the Office of Fair Trading, and there was an agreement between Anjali and the landlord to a 30% rent reduction, which was a great outcome.
Hi, I'm Eloise and I'm a tenants advocate. Bushfires have also created a lot of havoc this year for renters. A colleague of mine is working in the bushfire impacted areas on the south coast. One of their clients had to be evacuated multiple times during the recent bushfires, which was very distressing for the family, especially their 3 school-aged children. Thankfully, the house wasn't damaged and they were able to resume living there. Unfortunately, though, a few months after that, the landlord decided he wanted to terminate their tenancy, and they were given a 90 days no grounds termination notice. The rental market in the bushfire impacted community had become extremely tight as a result of the bushfires damaging and destroying a lot of homes. This family put in over 100 applications for other properties in their area, and unfortunately were not successful with any of those applications. This had a major impact on the family as they were forced to relocate to live with grandparents, and that meant the kids had to change schools as well, which just caused further disruption and upheaval for the family. If you or someone you know has been COVID-19 impacted or living in a bushfire impacted area and need tenants advice, then their Tenants Union advice line is available. It's operating Monday to Friday, 10 to 1 and 2 to 5, and we'll put the phone number in the comments below. You can also contact your local tenancy advice service for assistance, and the details for how to find those services will be in the comments.
This will be our last Moving Monday video of the year, but stay tuned for next year when we show you our beautiful new home. As always, we're going to dump a heap of really useful fact sheets, sample letters and other resources in the comments. Have a happy festive season, and to all the landlords out there, don't evict anyone.